Hello everyone, you are watching Storyteller channel. If you like the video, like, share and subscribe.
Everyone is busy going through their busy lives. Sung-woo steps out of a crowded bus. He seems to be pretty exhausted from his travel. He has to go through this rough bus travel daily because he's commuting from his home. His friend Han-ho makes fun of him because Sung-woo completed his harsh military service as a Special Forces Reserve Sergeant, and now he can't even bear 2 hours of commute. Sung-woo gets back at Han-ho by reminding him that he did not even complete his military service because of a girl, Mi-young. After hearing this insult, Han-ho becomes completely silent, and they head towards their class. On their way, Sung-woo feels a bit bad about the silence of his friend and asks him if Han-ho is crying. Han-ho points towards the sky at the top of the library building and tells Sung-woo that he saw a message in the sky saying "downloading monsters," and that message disappeared after the timing reached 100%. Sung-woo thinks Han-ho is sad about his previous girlfriend and he is seeing things in the sky because he spends most of his time playing video games. Sung-woo tells Han-ho to snap back to reality and they both head towards their respective classes. During the lectures, Sung-woo becomes a bit dizzy and it's hard for him to stay awake. Suddenly, a blackout happens and all lights went out. A system message popped up in front of everyone in the class. It was written in the system message to pick a class which can help them in the apocalypse. After that, a 15 seconds timer started and different skill cards with stars appeared in front of the class. Some students panicked and asked others not to pick anything because it could be dangerous. Sung-woo is skeptical about them and thinks not choosing a card within the 15 seconds is going to be even more dangerous. Sung-woo tried to pick a warrior card with 2 stars, but a fat kid Min-soo picked it before him, and a sword appeared in his hand. Sung-woo became a bit panicked and picked a random card with the most stars. The card he picked belonged to the 5 stars necromancer class and the skill card went inside him. After the timer was up, Sung-woo and the fat kid Min-soo were the only ones who had chosen any cards. The fat kid Min-soo is amazed by his new sword. After a while, a student rushes into class and there's a small monster on his back which looks like a goblin, and he's constantly stabbing the shoulder of the student who is crying for help. He keeps crying for help until the goblin kills him in cold blood. Everyone starts running away from the goblin, leaving Sung-woo at the front because they think it's their turn next. Some students request Min-soo to do something because he's the only guy with the sword, but Min-soo is a coward and he's not quick enough to adapt to this situation. Sung-woo also thinks that depending on Min-soo is useless and he has to get out of this situation on his own. The goblin plunges towards Sung-woo with his small dagger. Sung-woo thinks that he will also be done for if he gets caught up like the previous kid the goblin killed. Sung-woo kicks the goblin with all of his might, which throws the goblin a bit back. Sung-woo realized that the goblin barely felt like it was 30 pounds and he can easily kill it. He picks up a chair and smashes the head of the goblin with all of his force. The goblin is defeated and he receives 10 gold from the system for defeating the goblin. Everyone is shocked after watching this. Sung-woo is quick to adapt to the situation and realizes that the world has fused with the game. While Sung-woo is busy understanding the current situation, a system message pops up which tells Sung-woo that he can command the dead under his authority. He touches the goblin skeleton option in his command list and the dead goblin behind him reanimates as a skeleton. At this point, he understands that his necromancer class allows him to summon the undead beings. 2 more goblins rush inside the classroom. Sung-woo orders his undead skeleton to kill those 2 goblins. The skeleton plunges at one goblin and stabs him in the shoulder. The stab wound is not deep enough and he gets pushed back by the goblin. Both goblins gang up on him and start chopping off his bones one by one. Sung-woo thinks that he needs to help his skeleton and getting rid of these 2 goblins is easy, but he needs a proper weapon, so he asks Min-soo for his sword, but Min-soo is a coward and rejects him. Sung-woo thinks he's pretty pathetic and asks him to use his sword to peel potatoes. Sung-woo picks up another chair and throws it towards the 2 goblins who were attacking his skeleton. The goblins are knocked back a bit by the chair, and the undead skeleton seizes this chance to end them both with his knife. Sung-woo receives 20 gold for defeating both goblins. After the fight ended, Sung-woo received another system message that he has maxed out the number of minions under his authority. His classmates ask him about what he had done and he has also no idea about the ongoing events. Other students think that the same thing is happening all over the campus because they can hear screaming voices of others. But when Sung-woo opens the curtains on the windows, he witnesses fires all around the city. Some students decide that they need to leave the campus if they want to survive. In the corridor, they encounter more goblins which start chasing them, but they are all subdued by Sung-woo's undead skeletons. While Sung-woo's skeletons are fighting the goblins, he asks the other students to run away while they hold the goblins. Sungwoo also realized that this world is now working like a game, and he can get more stronger if he keeps killing goblins and grinding levels. Meanwhile, one of his undead skeleton gets defeated, and his head comes flying near him. Luckily, the goblins are exhausted, and his two other skeletons manage to kill them, which earns him 20 gold and a level up. He is now on level 2, and he has access to his status window. 5 random skill cards appear in front of him, and he can choose one as a level up gift. He chose a card which increased his maximum number of minions by 1. He can now control up to 4 undead skeletons at once, but he has used up most of his mana because he called up so many skeletons. Sungwoo looks outside the window, and it seems like the situation outside is worse than the campus itself. While he's going downstairs with the skeletons, Han-ho gets freaked out by one of his skeletons and stabs it in the head. Han-ho becomes relieved after seeing Sungwoo alive. Sungwoo tells him that these skeletons are part of his skill. Sungwoo asks which class did Han-ho pick, and Han-ho replies that he picked 1-star rogue class. They are both heading down the stairs with the skeletons, but suddenly a message pops up saying that they have received synergy with a dagger. It turns out if 5 members of a party have a dagger equipped, they will receive a 10% fatal blow chance and 10% additional gold. While they are moving down the stairs with the skeletons, they encounter another pack of goblins, and there is a goblin chief among them. The goblins become affected by a skill called Scent of Death, which weakens their stats by 30%. Scent of Death activates automatically when there are 4 to 5 skeletons present in a party. Skeletons start attacking the goblins, but the goblin chief activates a skill called Wild Berserker, which buffs all the goblins under his command. The goblins become more powerful and start pushing back the skeletons. Sungwoo knows that they are being pushed back because of the skill of the goblin chief, so he ordered one of his skeletons to cut off the arm of the goblin chief, which he is using for the berserker skill. The skeleton manages to chop off the arm of the chief, which weakens the goblins, and the skeletons finish them off with ease. Goblin chief is enraged, but he is easily killed by the skeletons working in synergy. Sungwoo receives a one-handed crude spear and the bracelet of the goblin chief, which he was using for the berserker skill. He becomes a bit happy and praises one of his skeletons, who starts making weird creepy noises with his bones. When they reach the entrance of the campus, they see a lot of survivors. Sungwoo orders his skeletons to hide in the copy room because people will freak out after watching them. Situation on the entrance doesn't feel any good. They are locked inside the campus and they can't go out. While Sungwoo tries to head outside using the main door, he is stopped by one of the student council members, Jin-suk, who was previously famous for being a bully and a harasser. He tells them that he is a shield master with 2 stars and he already killed one of the goblins. He further elaborates that everyone with a weapon should work together to defend the other students. Minsu comes running towards Jin-suk and reports that he heard faint sound of goblins near the entrance. Jin-suk orders the students to get inside the cafe so he and the other guys with skills can protect them. Sungwoo tells Han-ho to come near the entrance of the gate. They see a message on the entrance that the entrance door has been sealed by a magical force, and they need to defeat the boss monster within 2 hours and 11 minutes. If they fail to defeat the monster within a given time frame, the monsters inside the building will grow even stronger. Sungwoo now knows what he needs to do next, but he is stopped by Jin-suk, who wants them to hold the monsters in there until backup arrives. Sungwoo tells Jin-suk that this same thing can be happening around the whole country, and waiting for a rescue team is useless, but Jin-suk refutes by saying that the Korean military is more stronger than the monsters. Sungwoo has enough of this bullshit and starts heading towards the stairs, but he is stopped by an approaching group of 5 goblins. Sungwoo orders his skeletons to come out. After watching the skeletons, everyone freaks out because they think skeletons are part of the monsters unit. But Sungwoo tells them that they don't need to be scared because they belong to his class, which is stronger than the idiot Jin-suk. Goblins get scared by the death scent skill of the skeletons and it reduces their stats by 30%. Sungwoo orders his goblins to start the hunt. Skeletons start attacking the goblins and Sungwoo helps them using his spear. 2 goblins try to run, but Sungwoo orders the skeletons to block their way. Sungwoo is fighting himself because he wants to show the others that defeating them is not impossible, so he can persuade them to join him in boss hunting. One goblin is killed by a skeleton while the other one tries to run away, but Sungwoo throws his spear which pierces the back of the goblin. Everyone is overjoyed by watching the fight. Sungwoo received a roulette ticket by the system for killing 20 monsters, and he's the 34th person to complete this achievement, and his rank will be increased to infinite status, and there are only 100 people who are eligible for this ticket. He praises his skeletons for their work, and they again start making that weird voice with their bones. Sungwoo heads inside the cafe and tells everyone that no backup is arriving, and they will be killed by stronger monsters if they cannot find and kill the boss monster within the given time period. One of the students tells Sungwoo that he saw the boss monster on the rooftop and it killed his professor. Now he knows his next destination, but no one comes forward to join his party. Even his friend Han-ho wants to stay behind, but he forces him to come with him because he needs the knife buff for his skeletons. A 23-year-old girl, Ji-soo-yeon, comes forward. She has a 3-star class called Tiger Hunter. Sung-woo asks Jin-suk to come up with them, but he's a coward, so he makes an excuse that he needs to stay behind to defend the other students. Jin-suk and his party start heading towards the rooftop. They encounter some goblins on the stairs. Sung-woo heads upstairs with the skeletons to fend off the goblins, while Ji-soo-yeon takes care of the 2 goblins coming from behind using her fast sword. Sung-woo and Han-ho are both impressed by her skill. On the upper floors, they encountered an injured Professor Hwang. Professor Hwang tells Sung-woo that most of his students are dead because they tried to head to the rooftop, according to the instructions of emergency evacuation manual, but they encountered the boss monster there and most of the students were killed. Professor Hwang instructs Sung-woo to never go towards the rooftop, and these prove to be his last words. Sung-woo receives a new exclusive quest after the death of his professor. The quest says that he can appease the grudge of the dead by defeating the boss monster within the given time limit, and this choice is going to affect his destiny. Sung-woo gets more furious and heads toward the rooftop to fight the boss with his companions. Rooftop is in a terrible state. The goblins are pillaging everything valuable from the dead bodies of the students. Sung-woo and Ji-soo-yeon become furious after watching it. Sung-woo uses his bracelet skill Berserker to increase the stats of his skeletons, and an all-out skirmish starts on the rooftop. Everyone is fighting, which pumps Han-ho a bit, and he throws his knife, which hits the head of a goblin, earning him his first kill. He becomes more encouraged, which makes him feel like a character from JoJo. After encountering scent of death, the surviving goblins became scared and run off to their boss, the goblin captain. After hearing the roar of the goblin captain, the goblins' morale rises and they start attacking Sung-woo's party, but they are still no match for his skeletons. On the other hand, the goblin captain starts smashing skeletons one by one. Sung-woo can make more skeletons from the corpses, but it depletes his mana. Han-ho throws 2 knives at the boss, which are blocked by the shoulder of the boss. This makes the boss more furious, and he starts charging towards Han-ho. The skeletons try to save him, but 2 of them get easily smashed by 1 hit of the boss. One of them survives and manages to land a hit. While boss is busy taking care of the last skeleton, Ji-soo-yeon takes advantage of this opening and slashes the boss, which wounds him a little bit. Sung-woo starts fighting more strategically and uses his skeletons as bait, while he throws his spear towards the boss, which slashes his cheek a bit. The boss becomes more agitated and smashes some of the skeletons of Sung-woo. Now Sung-woo has barely enough mana left for a last skeleton summon. Sung-woo sees a sword stuck in the rubble, and he now knows that he needs to end this quickly or they are gonna die. Sung-woo picks up the sword and orders his 2 skeletons to charge at the boss. The boss smashes both of his skeletons and the 3rd skeleton jumps up towards the boss and he has a sword. But the boss deflects his attack. It turns out Sung-woo was after the synergy of swords, and now Sung-woo, Ji-soo-yeon, and his skeleton have a sword which activates sword synergy. This synergy decreases the weight of the swords by 50% and increases attack speed by 10%. Sung-woo charges towards the boss with a chair, and his other party members also start attacking the boss. Han-ho manages to hit the arm of the boss with a knife. Sung-woo orders his last skeleton to attack the boss. This skeleton was the first goblin monster killed by Sung-woo, and it surprises Sung-woo by beheading the boss with a sword in 1 hit. They receive 255 gold for defeating the goblin captain. Sung-woo gets leveled up. Now he is a level 3. The skeleton also absorbed the mana of the goblin captain, which upgraded his class, and now he has a tattoo on his forehead. He is now a level 2 elite goblin, and he has also a commander attribute. Sung-woo thinks his commander attribute is gonna be useful once he gets more skeletons. Han-ho has leveled up to 2, and Ji-soo-yeon leveled up to 3, and all of them received options to choose a random card. Sung-woo chose a card and he got a basic skill to create weapons from bones. This skill costs 10 mana, and he can create swords, clubs, spears, and bows using the bones of the corpses. Because Sung-woo completed an exclusive quest of avenging his professor, he will receive an exclusive reward, and his destiny has been altered slightly. His maximum number of minions have increased by 1, and now he can summon up to 5 minions. Han-ho received a hood as a reward, and it increases his chance of hiding from the monsters by 50%. He can use this hood to run away from the monsters, but now he knows how to fight, so he is gonna use it to fight against the monsters. Ji-soo-yeon received a fire whetstone. If she sharpens her blade with it, there is a chance that her sword will catch fire during an attack. Sung-woo tells them that they can test their skills later and they need to head back down. On the entrance, Jin-suk is pissed at everyone because they keep saying that Jin-suk should have gone up along with Sung-woo. Jin-suk gets angry and starts spouting bullshit that Sung-woo was an idiot and he must be dead by now. Suddenly, skeletons appear behind Jin-suk and he becomes scared. Sungwoo heads towards the entrance and it opens up after he touches it. He also tells Jinsuk that he is very pathetic. All students start making fun of Jinsuk for being arrogant and a fool. Sungwoo heads outside and asks the students to follow him. There are dead bodies all over the place and Sungwoo thinks that goblins did that. Hano spots a group of survivors along the way. Sungwoo can easily tell that these people have fought and survived against these goblins, and they have a bit of experience in this field. Jinsuk knows the leader of this group of survivors. His name is Taesung Park, and he is also the president of the student council. Taesung tells the students with Sungwoo that he also fought and survived against the goblins and he can guarantee their safety if they tag along with him, but he seems to have some ulterior motives. He tells Sungwoo that he can also join him if he destroys all of the monsters he is controlling using his class, because he thinks they are creepy and they can be a threat to other survivors. But Jisoo-yun intervenes and tells Taesung that he is full of shit and they don't even want to join his group. She also tells everyone that Taesung is a hypocrite and he embezzled student membership fees during the festival by fabricating an event staging company and its receipts. She was the one who reported him on the university website. Taesung becomes embarrassed after hearing it. Jisoo-yun leaves along with her party members. After a while, Jisoo-yun starts telling more details about Taesung to her party members. It turns out Taesung was a rich, spoiled kid and he used to take advantage of girls. Some of her friends were also abused by him. That's why she knew about the true nature of Taesung. Hanho becomes enraged after hearing about the true nature of Taesung. Sungwoo suggests that they should take the path by the hill to escape the campus. There would be less monsters present there because there is low human activity in that area. Along their path, they spot an orc which is even bigger than the goblin boss. After spotting them, the orc makes a loud scream and plunges towards Sungwoo's party to attack them. Sungwoo is a bit excited because he has found a new material for the skeletons. The orc proves to be quite strong and he's about to hit Jisoo-yun, but a goblin skeleton takes the hit instead of her and perishes right there. The one-armed skeleton warrior attacks the orc and the orc receives massive damage because of the effect of 88% blade damage of the one-handed sword warrior. Sungwoo party flees into the forest and he uses his skeletons to bait the boss. When the orc is in the forest, he gets attacked by flying knives from Hanho and the skeletons. The orc manages to deflect some knives. He starts smashing the skeletons, but there are a lot of goblin dead bodies around, and Sungwoo can make them again and again until he runs out of mana. Two skeletons take hold of the arms of orc. Sungwoo and Jisoo-yun charge at the orc together. Jisoo-yun manages to slash the leg of the orc, and one of his arms is chopped off by Sungwoo. The skeleton warrior finishes him off with a sword stab to the neck. Sungwoo's party receives 110 gold for defeating the orc patrol leader. Orc patrol leaders are a bit stronger than normal orcs. Sungwoo tries to make the orc patrol leader into one of his skeletons, but he fails to do so because of his low summon level. Some of Sungwoo's mana is recovered, so he uses his great bone weapon skill on the dead orc leader to forge some low-level bone clubs. He equips his skeletons with the bone clubs to reach a 5-member synergy with the same weapon to get extra buffs. He gives the sword of the one-armed skeleton warrior to Hanho and tells him to return the sword back to the skeleton warrior if the need arises. When they reach the entrance, they again see a blocked path message which says that they need to defeat the boss monster within 8 hours, or if they fail to do so, the monsters in the area will grow even more stronger. A message pops up in front of them which says that an orc unit is beginning their hunt and they need to choose a suitable location to fight them. Orcs mostly use their sense of smell to track their prey, so it means that more people you have in your party, the more stronger orc unit will be dispatched to get rid of them. Sungwoo's party seems to be a bit safe because they are only a 3-member party and they will get less of a challenge as compared to Taesung's group. Suddenly, they start hearing screams from Taesung's group. They seem to have caught the attention of the orcs due to their large number of survivors. The first attack on Sungwoo's group has also begun and it seems like they only need to take care of 5 orcs. Soon they spot 5 orcs which seems to be searching for them. Sungwoo has an idea to lay a trap using the empty cars and his skeletons. When the orcs get close to the cars, Hanho starts making fun of them by calling them greedy pig bastards. The orcs become enraged and start rushing towards him. Once the orcs are within the vicinity of the abandoned cars, the skeletons attack them by surprise with their clubs, and they get knocked out due to the synergy effect of the clubs. Sungwoo, Hanho, and Jisoo-yun finish off the knocked orcs with ease. They received a total of 231 gold for killing the 5 orc hunters. They also receive an additional award of 100 gold for killing the first wave of ambushers. Sungwoo got up to level 4 and he chose a random card which increased his maximum number of skeletons by 2. Now he can have a total of 7 minions at the same time, but his mana capacity is still only 50. Hanho also received a high-speed stabbing skill which he can only use with the dagger. Ji Soo-yoon chose a strength card and gained 2 stat points. She's also feeling a bit stronger than before. Sung-woo asks Han-ho to give the sword back to the one-armed warrior skeleton because now Han-ho needs to use that dagger in order to fully monopolize his skill. On the way, they see 7 orc hunters attacking a bus. The people inside the bus are retaliating with a spear, but they cannot hold the orcs for a long period of time. Ji Soo-yoon suggests that they attack the orcs from the front while the person with the spear attacks them from behind. But Sung-woo is skeptical about whether or not the person inside the bus will cooperate with them. He suggests a new better plan. Inside the bus, 2 persons, Kyun-soo Lee with a spear and the other with a shield and sword, are trying their best to fend off the orcs, but they seem to be scared. Meanwhile, a car with skeletons crashes into the orcs. The skeletons start massacring the orcs. The survivors inside the bus mistake them for worse monsters than the orcs. They are startled when they see Han-ho banging on the bus's door and calling them out. The spear guy tells Sung-woo's party that there is a machine which they can use to buy items with the gold they acquired by killing the monsters. It's basically an E-rank shop, and when Sung-woo turns it on, he has 3 roulette options including bronze, silver, and gold. Han-ho has 360 gold and Ji Soo-yoon has 584 gold, so they can only go for the bronze option. Sung-woo has 1,552 gold and he can try the silver roulette. But he also has an unlimited rank roulette ticket he received early on in the lobby of the college building. Sung-woo taps on the gold roulette option and it starts spinning. He gets first place item due to his luck. It is a legendary class item called Tear of the Sea Spirit, and it increases the total mana by 200 and it boosts the mana recovery speed by 200%. Sung-woo is quite happy after receiving this item because he can summon a lot of minions again and again if enough dead bodies are present. Sung-woo spins the silver roulette using his 1000 gold and he receives a second place item, Vanguard Shield. Ji Soo-yoon receives a second place sword in the bronze roulette called Leader of the Expedition Force. Meanwhile, Han-ho receives a C-rank potion bundle. It looks like Daesung's group is still fighting in the sports field. Sung-woo decides that they are going to help them using a bus instead of a car this time. Normal students are getting massacred by the orcs while Daesung and his other awakened friends are trying to escape the orcs by themselves. The bus arrives in the sports field and it crashes into the orcs. Kyung-soo Lee, the spearman, is driving the bus and he's quite happy because he's receiving a lot of gold for killing the orcs. Meanwhile, Han-ho and the skeletons are also getting rid of orcs by throwing knives at them. The bus stops near the survivors and Sung-woo tells the survivors to get inside the bus. Ji Soo-yoon slashes an orc and the orc catches fire due to the effects of the fire whetstone which she has received after killing the first boss on the campus building's rooftop. The remaining orcs are easily killed left and right by Sung-woo and his minions. After the battle ended, Daesung and his awakened friends try to get on the bus but they are stopped by Sung-woo. Sung-woo knew that they were trying to escape using the other students as bait. Daesung is quite pissed after hearing it, but their conversation comes to a halt when they hear a roar and they receive a notification that the orc chief is infuriated by the failed hunt. Sung-woo gets a bit afraid after hearing the roar. He knows that he needs as much help as he can to defeat the orc chief. Sung-woo tells Daesung's party that they can join him if they are willing to listen to his orders. Daesung eats his pride and is about to enter the bus, but Sung-woo demands that Daesung should hand over his chainmail if he wants to hop on the bus. Daesung asks how he can protect himself without the chainmail. Sung-woo replies that he will protect him, and this is a small price he needs to pay for his protection. Sung-woo is now on level 5 and he can summon mid-level monsters like orcs. The skill card he chose allows him to summon 2 more minions. Now he can summon up to 9 minions. Sung-woo gave the chainmail to the one-armed skeleton, but he seems to be struggling with it. The one-armed skeleton is his oldest minion, that's why he gave him a nickname, Righty, because he only has a right arm. While Sung-woo is removing chainmail from Righty, Han-ho tells him that he thinks they need another bus if they want to keep rescuing more survivors. Sung-woo says that there is no need for that. He tells the survivors that they are gonna engage in combat with the orcs very soon, because the orc chief is pissed and he decided to wage an all-out war on the humans, unlike previously where they were only attacking in waves. One of the survivors breaks the silence and tells them that he saw over 100 orcs in the gym. This scares the survivors, and they receive penalties because most of the survivors have lost their will to fight after hearing it. But Sung-woo is sure that there are less than 100 orcs left because they already killed a lot of them. He tells everyone that he's going to fight the orcs alone. Daesung and his lackeys become more cocky after hearing it. They think Sung-woo was just lucky until now and he's soon gonna dig his own grave. Ji Soo-yoon tells Sung-woo that killing 100 monsters is not gonna be easy, even for him. Sung-woo replies that even if they flock together, they are not gonna be useful because majority of the survivors are weaker than his skeletons. He tells his companions that they are helpful, but things are gonna get more dangerous. That's why he is not gonna take them with him. Jisoo thinks Sung-woo has a rational mind, but this time he is being a bit reckless. After escorting the survivors in a safe building, Sung-woo starts heading towards his next destination along with his minions. His party members are watching him from the bus and they will rush over with the bus if something happens to Sung-woo. In the sports ground, Sung-woo comes face to face with a large number of orcs. There is an enraged red-haired orc who is commanding them. Sung-woo thinks that he is a mid-level boss. The red-haired orc orders the other orcs to attack Sung-woo. Sung-woo heads towards a small staircase where he and his minions make a stand. There's only one narrow staircase where the orcs can attack him, making his place easy to defend. Orcs start approaching the stair and Sung-woo uses his bracelet skill Wild Berserker, which will give him and his minions a 10% attack increase and a 20% speed increase against all goblin-type enemies for 10 minutes. Skeletons start throwing their knives towards the orc and they start falling like flies. The red-haired orc blocks the knives and Sung-woo orders his skeletons to start attacking using the bone clubs, but they are easily overwhelmed by orcs. The one-armed skeleton becomes enraged after watching his skeleton friends getting decimated, but Sung-woo stops him because it's not his turn yet. Sung-woo resurrects the dead orc in place of the fallen skeletons. They will also receive a weapon synergy buff because there are more than 5 orcs with the same axe weaponry in the party. The skeleton orcs start decimating the orcs. Even if some skeleton orcs fall, new are resurrected to take their place and they don't even get tired like the orcs. Sung-woo knows that this is the correct way of utilizing his necromancer class. The survivors watching from the windows of the building are amazed after witnessing the onslaught of orcs by Sung-woo. His party members who are in the bus are also quite happy after watching him slaughter the orcs. Meanwhile, Sung-woo is impressed by his new legendary item, Tear of the Sea Spirit. It increases his total mana by 200 and his mana regen by 200%. The remaining orcs are still holding up fiercely, so Sung-woo orders Righty to jump into the fight. Righty takes care of the remaining orcs in a few seconds, and Sung-woo receives a new roulette ticket for slaying 100 monsters. It turns out Sung-woo is the 21st person to complete this achievement, and his rank will also increase to infinite status, which is only limited to 100 people. Sung-woo witnesses some fools crashing a bus into the main gate. On the other hand, school president Daesung's group is being kidnapped by orcs. Sung-woo heads towards their direction to save them, and other awakened people who were watching got pumped up and started following him. Sung-woo heads inside the building where orcs have kept Daesung's group captive, and a shaman orc, which seems to be their new boss, is present there. There are also many dead bodies of other monsters present in there. Sung-woo tells everyone to get ready, but the situation of Daesung and his henchmen is not looking good. Daesung begs Sung-woo to save them, but Sung-woo replies he will try his best, but he is not a miracle worker, and they got themselves into that situation in the first place. When Sung-woo's party charges at the orcs, they start killing the Daesung group members as some sort of ritual to enhance the power of the boss monster, and Sung-woo's group stops after watching this cruel scene. The boss gets a power buff after the sacrifice and he uses Breath of Abyss on Sung-woo's party, and they all fall into a state of confusion. Their mana is also burning at a faster rate now. The reinforced boss monster makes his full appearance. He is a junior black magician orc chief. Han-ho drinks a potion to heal his status effect, and he offers it to Sung-woo, but Sung-woo is not affected by the boss's Breath of Abyss. On the contrary, his mana has increased up to 4,000 due to the effects of the Breath of Abyss, so he tells Han-ho to give the potion to Jisoo. Sung-woo's other stats have also increased temporarily due to the Breath of Abyss. Now he can summon 50 minions at the same time. The boss did not expect it to happen, and he is also confused by it. Jisoo and Han-ho starts rushing towards the boss, but Sung-woo stops them. He resurrects all the dead bodies inside the boss room. Sung-woo receives a lot of synergies due to this large number of minions possessing the same type of weapons. Sung-woo is now overflowing with power, and he's ready to show the true power of death to the boss. Magician Orc Chief smashes a lot of skeletons, but it is of no use because they keep reviving. Sung-woo's physical form has also temporarily changed, and the boss gets scared by him. He tries to run away, but the path is blocked from all sides by Sung-woo's minions. The boss makes his last-ditch effort to reach Sung-woo, but Righty chops off his head in one clean slash attack. Sung-woo receives 1,055 gold for killing the Orc Chief. Righty's rank increased up to level 3 after killing the Orc Chief. His defense and commander characteristics have also increased. Hanho points out an item coming out of the boss's mouth. It's an item with devil attribute, and once a devil attribute has been accepted, it requires a lot of sacrifices in order to remove it. Sungwoo still accepts it because it is not that much different from his necromancer class. He receives a legendary rank devil's bloodstone orb. This item grants the user a devil attribute which steals the enemy's mana by 2% during the fight, and if the enemy runs out of mana, it starts leeching their physical strength. Sungwoo returns to his normal state because the effects of the Breath of Abyss have been lifted, which granted him temporary power-up. Everyone is happy when he comes out, and they cheer for their hero. The seal on the gate is also lifted, and their tutorial is completed. So they leave campus, but the situation outside is also the same as the campus. Spearman Kyung-soo Lee tells Sungwoo that there are 2 buses available, and he can take all of them to a nearby military base, but Sungwoo makes an excuse that his house is nearby. All survivors leave on the bus, but Hanho and Jisoo stay behind to tag along with Sungwoo. Sungwoo says to Hanho that he can allow him to tag along if he lets him cut off one of his arms so he can reach maximum synergy with his one-handed skeleton Righty. Spearman Kyung-soo stops his bus because he notices some dragons moving towards the bus which are moving. The dragons pick up the other unlucky moving bus and kills everyone inside it. Sungwoo and his friends can clearly see the scene. Sungwoo tells his companions that from now on, they are gonna find the monsters to hunt them and get more stronger, or their fate will be the same as the people on the bus. With this said, Sungwoo and his party get ready to start their next hunt. Goblins are on the run from the onslaught of Sungwoo and his minions. After killing them, Sungwoo levels up to 6. This time he chooses a guaranteed strength boost card, which increases his strength by 3. Sungwoo goes out where Jisoo just finished up killing 9 goblins. Sungwoo asks Hanho to pack up the daggers, and he tells his teammates they are going to switch to hunting orcs because they give much more experience points and better rewards. They start finding clues for orcs, but instead find a few military vehicles with dead bodies of soldiers laying around, and it seems like they try to fight back using their field shovels. There is a surviving soldier, but he is a bit confused about the skeletons with Sungwoo's party. Someone clears his doubt about his minions. Soldier tells his Sergeant Kim about Sungwoo's party. Sergeant Kim is in a very bad situation. His leg is injured and he can't leave his vehicle. It turns out he was slashed by a little goblin, but he managed to beat the goblin somehow. Sungwoo inquires why the military is using shovels instead of their guns. Sergeant Kim replies that the guns no longer work. That is why the military is in this bad condition. Hanho asks Sungwoo if he can hand over the healing potion to the sergeant, but Sungwoo thinks giving away things for free is not a good choice. Sergeant Kim tells him that he has some information that he can exchange for the potion. He tells them about wolves, which were as big as bulls, and whole squads of military were wiped out by them. There are also 2 blue QR codes which Sergeant Kim saw. He tells them one of the QR codes is in the bus station and the other one is in the subway transfer center. If a player scans the QR codes, it will install an app on their phones. All other communications are down, and this app is the only way to communicate with other survivors. Sungwoo hands him the healing potion. Sergeant Kim tells them that he is going to rejoin with the main unit and he can take them with him, but Sungwoo thinks it will not be safe with them. Sungwoo gives them a last warning as a farewell gift. He tells them about the dragons which follow moving vehicles. Sergeant Kim and the soldier became more scared, but they thank Sungwoo for this crucial information. Both of the parties part ways. Sungwoo and his party reaches the bus station and they scan the QR code which installs the app on their phones. Sungwoo clicks on the official announcement and it is written that the game has officially launched today. In the first round of class selection, 2,967,821 people were chosen as players, and there are 1,341,122 players who are still alive. The second round of class card selection will take place in 3 days, and the writer of this message is looking forward to the humanities' performance in the next card selection round. Sungwoo opens the message board, but there is no post yet because it costs 1,000 gold to make a post, and it requires 100 gold just to comment on that post. Suddenly a post pops up. It turns out some players have reached level 8 and they are currently building a safe zone in H apartment complex in Hwasong City. H apartment is near Hanho's place. Sungwoo thinks that they need to head over there. Sungwoo is a bit skeptical about it because they have reached level 8 and Sungwoo is still on level 6. After Sungwoo and his friends start heading towards the H apartments, someone deletes the post and a new post pops up which says that someone posted that bullshit. That's why he deleted the post, and he tells the readers to disregard the previous post. We see a glimpse of the writer of the post, and it seems like he has long teeth, just like a vampire. In the city, a father is trying to protect his daughter from the goblins using a baseball bat. He calls for help, but there is no one around to help them. The goblins are about to attack the father and his daughter, but a flying knife hits the head of a goblin from behind. It turns out they are Sungwoo's minions, and they finish the goblins with ease. Sungwoo tells them that he will take them safely to their house, but the father tells him that his house is close by and they came out to find food. Sungwoo shares some of his food with the survivors. There are 2 remaining goblins which run into the basement. This basement is a dungeon. Han-ho asks Sungwoo if they need to chase the goblins inside the dungeon or not. The father tells them that they should not go down into that basement. A friend of his used to run a karaoke bar down there, and he heard there is something more terrifying than those green beasts lurking down there. Sungwoo thanks him for the tip, and they enter the Elder Slime's shrine. They encounter some slimes, and each slime gives 140 gold after being defeated. These slimes are corrosive, and they dissolve the metal, but they can't melt bones, which makes Sungwoo's minions their natural predators. Suddenly, the boss Elder Slime appears behind them, and it easily crushes one of Sungwoo's orc skeleton. Sungwoo pierces the slime boss with a basic bone spear. Sungwoo can't summon skeletons because there are only bones around them, but he can create basic bone weapons with those skeletons. Jisoo Yun throws a skeleton towards the boss, and Sungwoo creates 2 more bone spears with that skeleton, and they pierce the boss slime. The boss slime tries to kill Sungwoo, but an orc skeleton gets caught in his place, and Han-ho pulls him back with him. Slime Monster made a big mistake. The bag orc skeleton was carrying had a lot of bones. Sungwoo uses his skills to make a lot of bone spears, which pierce the boss, and his minions start cutting the slime into pieces so it cannot regenerate. Righty delivers the last attack on the boss. They receive 2,255 gold for defeating the boss slime. Slime's mucus is an extremely strong acid. Sungwoo orders his minions to collect the mucus in empty bottles. Sungwoo also received an Elder Slime's core. It's covered with a thick shell. Its interior is composed of a concentrated strong acid, which is capable of dissolving anything. It is mostly useful for dissolving or fusing objects together. Meanwhile, Han-ho tells Sungwoo to check a new comment. It looks like the situation in the post have become more chaotic. Anyone who arrives at the H apartments gets his comments deleted. Han-ho is an idiot, but he also knows that something fishy is happening in H apartments, and Sungwoo has an idea of what is really occurring there. During the night, some thugs are discussing about their sinister plan to kill other players. If they kill a normal human, they receive 500 gold. And if they kill a player, they receive 1,000 times the gold according to the level of the player. Inside the car, a bulky thug inquires about the identity of their real boss from his bald boss. The bald guy is scared, and he tells his comrade that the serial killer Professor Red is their boss. Professor Red spared his life because he wanted Bald Thug to work for him, and the Bald Thug can feel something changing inside him. Meanwhile, back in the slime dungeon, Sungwoo asks Han-ho if he can kill a person, because from now on, things are about to get more chaotic. Bald Thug remembers his past, where he completely turned into a minion of a vampire lord after being bitten by him. He was a low-rank vampire. He killed and drank the blood of his own henchmen. Professor Red was quite happy after witnessing it. In the present, a henchman of the bald vampire knocks on the car's door. His henchman reports that they just got a confirmation that their new prey has arrived. According to the comments, there are 3 of them and they are waiting in the park. They start heading towards Sungwoo's party on their car. Bald Vampire tells his lackey that it's their 17th prey. The H apartment is quite big and complex. That's why it's easy to lure people there. The apartment residents stay quiet, saying it's none of their business, but once they run out of prey, they will target the apartment residents. They spot 3 targets, and the bald vampire orders his lackey to run them over. Those 3 targets were actually disguised bone skeletons. Sungwoo turns them into bone spear weapons, which pierce the car. Sungwoo punches through the window and drags the bald vampire outside. Bald Vampire tries to imitate Sung-woo and Sung-woo kicks his chin. Sung-woo asks him about the number of people they got upstairs. Bald Vampire turns into a complete vampire and tries to kill Sung-woo, but Riley chops off one of his hands. Bald Vampire's lackey becomes scared after watching him. Sung-woo asks his lackey about their number and he tells Sung-woo there are 8 people upstairs. He was about to reveal more information but Bald Vampire beheads him. Han-ho and Jisoo becomes disgusted after watching Bald Vampire kill his own ally. Bald Vampire's wrist bones are morphing into a pointed blade. He starts drinking blood from the head of his lackey. It turns out he got healed after drinking blood, and his stats have also increased. He was originally a 3-star ninja, but he became a low-rank vampire after Professor Red bit his neck. Once someone becomes a vampire, they are stuck at level 1, but that's not much of a hindrance because if they kill humans instead of monsters, they can absorb their stats by drinking their blood. Bald Vampire activates Berserk mode, which increases all of his stats temporarily by 20%, but there is a big penalty of Berserk mode which occurs after exiting Berserk mode. It reduces their stats by 50% for 10 hours. Sung-woo thinks that this vampire class is even more gruesome than his necromancer class. Sung-woo tells Han-ho and Jisoo to get behind him. He also orders his minions to attack the vampire, but he is quite fast, and he easily manages to dodge the attacks of the skeletons. He goes directly for Sung-woo, but Sung-woo blocks his attack with his shield. Jisoo-yeon attacks him with her swords, but Bald Vampire easily dodges it, and they both start exchanging blows. Han-ho throws daggers, but the vampire blocks them. Han-ho keeps throwing daggers like a Gatling gun, which pisses off the vampire. He dashes towards Han-ho, but Righty successfully parries his attack. He tries to slash the neck of the vampire, but Vampire somehow dodges it. Sung-woo comes from behind with his shield, but Vampire destroys his shield with one slash attack. They both start exchanging blows, and the vampire is quite confident at this point. Jisoo-yeon tries to sneak attack him from behind with her burning sword, but the vampire is too fast and manages to dodge it. Righty was at the back of Jisoo and he jumps at Vampire and manages to cut off his arm again. Sung-woo orders his minion to attack the vampire, but his backup arrives in time. Thugs also become afraid after watching their boss's true form. His arm is getting regenerated, but Jisoo chops it off again. An orc skeleton tries to attack Vampire, but he smashes him, and it turns out that orc skeleton was just a mere bait. Sung-woo stabs his sword through his orc skeleton, which pierces the vampire's neck, and Sung-woo finally chops his head off. Sung-woo's party receives 1,000 gold for killing a level 1 player. Now, Sung-woo knows exactly what was going on in H apartments. They were killing off other players for their gold and experience. Vampire's lackey gets surrounded by Sung-woo's minions. Sung-woo tells them to drop their weapons or he will kill them all. Thugs are afraid and they drop their weapons. They tell Sung-woo about their true boss, but they also have limited information about him, and this was their first time watching their bald boss's true form. Sung-woo realizes that their real boss has a 5 or more stars class because he can make other players into monsters. Sung-woo asks the thugs about how many people they killed, and one of them tells them that they killed 21 or 22 people. Sung-woo becomes enraged and orders his minions to kill all of them. They receive a total of 5,000 gold for killing all of them. Even Han-ho and Jisoo-yeon become surprised after watching it, but Sung-woo tells them that if they don't kill them now, they will start killing other innocent people. Han-ho and Jisoo-yeon agree with Sung-woo's decision. The next morning, someone posted that the people in apartment H were murderers and he barely escaped with his life. He was observing them from afar, but some other player finished them all off with his skeletons. Sergeant Kim becomes happy after reading it because he knows it must be Sung-woo's party. Sergeant Kim posts some appreciation comments about Sung-woo's party, and other students Sung-woo helped back in the school are also posting good stuff about Sung-woo, but no one knows his real name. In a depleted building, we see a glimpse of a mysterious figure who became happy after reading the comments, and they head off to an unknown location. Han-ho tells Sung-woo about a new post by a guy named Prosecutor. Someone posted that if people want to post something and they lack gold, they can just comment down below this post and help each other. He also provides some other minor information like how they can use this setting to change their nicknames. Most of the comments are about missing family members or useful information about synergies and wolves, which can jump 2 stories high. Sung-woo's party arrives at Han-ho's place and Han-ho hopes his parents are still alive. Inside the building, there are quite a few dead orcs laying around on the stairs. Hanho prays for his parents' safety. After arriving at the room 202, Hanho desperately calls for his mom, and his parents rush out to see their child. It turns out his parents didn't pick a class card. Hanho is skeptical about his dad because he used to play card games all the time. Sungwoo asks them about how they managed to stop those orcs. It turns out those orcs ran away after Hanho's father used pesticide spray on them. Everyone becomes shocked after hearing it. After they finish eating food, Hanho's mom thanks Jisoo and Sungwoo for bringing their good-for-nothing son back to them. She also prepared some green tea for them. Hanho tells his mom about the awesome things he did to help his party, but she asks her son to shut up. After watching the lights from outside, some biker guys give off a grin smile. Meanwhile, inside the building, Jisoo is happy after taking a shower, and she thanks Hanho's mom for the pajamas. Sungwoo and Hanho are taking shower along with Righty. Sungwoo is happy to see Hanho's parents alive. He thinks that Hanho's father was quite lucky. He used pesticides against orcs, whose biggest strength is their sense of smell. Sungwoo knows that Hanho must be overjoyed because he found his parents. Sungwoo tells them that this is not a safe place to stay. The orcs which came before were just mere scouts, and it will turn into an all-out war if their main group arrives. But the main problem is that they don't know where to go next. It turns out Prosecutor again made a post. He tells the survivors that one of his friend is a 3-stars pioneer, and they created a small safe area inside Yeongdeungpo station, where monsters can't enter. But the survivors need to provide gold or rations because pioneer skills take up a lot of resources to maintain. Sungwoo is skeptical, but he knows what the prosecutor guy said can be true because the world has become a game. But they can't take Hanho's parents there because it is quite far away from their location. There is another comment by a guy called Section Chief Gu, who claims to be a 3-star pioneer, but he can only let in others if they give him rent. This guy is in Hwasong Fortress, which is 20 minutes away if they travel on a bus, and Sungwoo's party decides to head over there. The next morning, they start heading over to Hwasong Fortress along with Hanho's parents. Hanho's dad informs them about some delinquent who steals resources from other survivors. Sungwoo is a bit worried about these third-rate delinquents running amok. Soon, some delinquents arrive at their location on their bikes. A cocky delinquent girl addresses them as Jeezers and tells them to hand over their resources and gold, which pisses off Sungwoo. Sungwoo is about to order his minions, which are hiding in a building behind him, but suddenly they hear a sound, and all delinquents make a run for it. Soon, a pack of giant wolves arrives, but they are not attacking Sungwoo's party mindlessly. Sungwoo's party is at a disadvantage, so he tells his companions to slowly back away. After getting inside the building, one of the wolves tries to attack them, but Sungwoo uses his brain and throws a slime-filled bottle at the face of the wolf. His minions start throwing bone spears at him and the wolf dies. The second wolf tries to run away, but one of Sungwoo's minions tries to stop him. Wolf bites the minions, but it was a trap, and Wolf's mouth becomes filled with slime liquid. Righty leaps towards the exhausted wolf and finishes him off with one strike. The last wolf becomes afraid after watching it, but he soon gets pierced by spears. They receive 240 gold per wolf they slayed, and Sungwoo's level has risen up to 7. Jisoo-yeon is a bit worried because she thinks they are becoming a burden to Sungwoo, but he tells her that they are quite helpful, but he is skeptical about Hanho's growth. Sungwoo tries to resurrect the wolf, but his level is quite low for that. The next morning, a helicopter is being followed by some wyverns. Suddenly, a field boss wyvern alpha male appears in front of them, and it easily destroys the helicopter. Sungwoo and his friends were watching it from a window, and they think even army is no longer a match for these monsters. Sungwoo's party can't go forward because some wyverns are sleeping ahead on rooftops. Sungwoo suggests to take a break for now, and they will leave once the wyverns go away. Night falls and the wyverns are still sleeping on the rooftops. Suddenly, a message pops up which tells them that they should pick a class card, which will help them survive in this apocalypse. Hanho tells his parents to choose a card with the most stars this time. A 15-second countdown starts and cards appear in front of them. These same cards are also presented to other survivors too, and they disappear after someone chooses them. Hanho is trying his best to find a card with the most stars. But Sungwoo thinks simply picking a card with the most stars is not a good option, and he should pick a card which combines well with his necromancer class. Sungwoo picks a 3-star Dark Mage Link card, and it combines with his necromancer class to grant him new skills. He got a skill called Death Aura, which buffs his minions and debuffs his enemies. Hanho was trying to pick a 4-star card, but someone else picked it before him, and he accidentally tapped on a 1-star priest card. He got a new skill which shields him from his enemies for 10 seconds after he kills an enemy. Hanho's father picked a 3-star pioneer card and he can now make safety zones. Sungwoo is quite happy because now they don't need to go to Hwasong Fortress anymore. Hanho's father is quite overjoyed by his new pioneer class. Hanho's mother picked a 1-star chef card, and Hanho tells her she should have picked a class which could have helped them during their fights. Hanho parents become sad after hearing it because they raised Hanho for 20 years and now their son wants them to fight. Jisoo-yoon picked a 3-star hitman card. Her new passive skill, Supreme Sense, heightens her senses whenever she's in danger. Jisoo-yoon thinks she needs to become stronger so she can be more helpful to Sungwoo. Sungwoo asks Hanho's father to explain the skills of Pioneer. This skill costs 10 mana after every 10 minutes to create a safe zone whose surface area is 2,150 square feet, and its height is limited to 33 feet. Once the user runs out of mana, this skill starts consuming 100 gold per every 10 minutes. The shield around the zone regenerates over time, but it can be destroyed by powerful attacks. Sungwoo tells them that they can't afford to use this skill right now, and they will only use it for emergencies. Sungwoo further tells them that the other groups with Pioneer will try to abuse their power, and Sungwoo's party will stay away from them. Meanwhile, the Wyverns have rested enough and they take off. Sungwoo asks Hanho to check the location of a store or a roulette machine on the forum, because he needs to spend his gold and get stronger. Soon, they hear motorbike sounds and they become alerted. Sungwoo has an idea. They will ask the motorbike punks about the location of the store. It turns out these delinquents were stuck in a meat shop while they were waiting for the Wyverns to go away. Their leader, Taesung, is a level 6 fighter, and he needs a little bit more gold to spin the silver roulette this time. Taesung arrives at his hideout, but is suspiciously quieter than usual. When he gets inside a room, he finds his friends there, but they are quite sad about something. One of them tells Taesung that their friend Yoo-jin had not collected enough money, so the vampire made her into a lesser vampire. Taesung becomes quite sad after seeing his friend as a lesser vampire. There's another vampire present in the room, and he asks Taesung why he killed his previous leader, Woo-sok. Taesung replies that he had no other choice because their previous leader, Woo-sok, had turned into a complete vampire and he killed many people. The vampire informs Taesung that he will kill all of them next if they fail to gather 10,000 gold within 2 days. Suddenly, Sungwoo comes in with his party, and he is not happy with the customer service provided by these thugs. Vampire asks what they want, and Sungwoo replies he wants everything they have. Vampire becomes pissed, and his fangs become visible. After seeing his fangs, Sungwoo mistakes him for the real boss of thugs in H apartments. Vampire rushes at Sungwoo, and his minions get a hold of his hands. Sungwoo stabs the throat of the vampire, and he warns the vampire to not move, or else his head will fly off. Sungwoo asks him if he is the vampire lord, and he starts laughing. Vampire is quite powerful and he breaks the skeletons holding him with his hands. He also mends the sword piercing his throat with his bare hands. He tries to go for Sungwoo again, but this time he gets hit by Hanho's daggers. Jisoo rushes at the vampire and chops 1/2 of his arm. Vampire tries to regenerate his arm, but he gets burned halfway due to Jisoo-yoon's fire whetstone effect. Jisoo attacks the vampire once more, and this time she completely severs the burned arm of the vampire. Vampire is about to get back at her by throwing the sword piece stuck in his throat, but she manages to dodge it thanks to her newly acquired skill, Supreme Sense. Due to the new skill of Sungwoo, his minions become more buffed, and the vampire gets 10 times weaker. Orc skeletons start mashing the vampire with their bare hands. Vampire can't bear any more beating, and he yields to Sungwoo's party, but in reality, he is just pretending to give up so he can somehow finish Sungwoo once he drops his guard. Sungwoo is not a child, and he sees through his lie. Sungwoo makes bone spears which pierce the vampire, rendering him motionless. Sungwoo asks the vampire if he had enough, or he wants more piercing. Vampire tells Sungwoo that even though they managed to defeat him, but soon the day will arrive when their boss's true plan will come to fruition, and the likes of Sungwoo will be wiped out. Sungwoo had enough, so he tells Jisoo-yoon to finish off the vampire, and she receives 322 gold for killing a player. Taesung is quite surprised after witnessing the fight, and he begs for mercy. He tells Sungwoo that he had nothing to do with that vampire. Sungwoo tells him that it doesn't matter, and they should hand over everything they got. Hanho tells Sungwoo that these third-rate thugs had less gold than what he expected. Jisoo-yoon thinks that maybe this vampire was connected to the vampire at H apartments. Sungwoo tells them that the vampire boss is growing in power, and he is quite crafty. He's using these lesser vampires to collect gold for him. Sung-woo is afraid because the vampire they killed had the ability to turn other humans into lesser vampire, and soon the vampirism will spread like a virus. Sung-woo needs to become stronger because they can barely defeat a single vampire, and if they get attacked by multiple vampires at once, they will be wiped out. Sung-woo asks Taesung if there's a store nearby, and Taesung happily leads the way, but suddenly a red system message window pops up. There's a question in this message, and it is asking about what should be done to those people who were arrogant enough to not pick any card during second-class selection for players. Sung-woo has a bad feeling about it. Suddenly, a delinquent named Min-sik becomes afraid because he had not chosen any card during second-class selection. He never trusted the system, that's why he didn't choose anything. He tells Taesung that he is not only the one. Jae-hee also didn't pick any card. Another red system message pops up. The system is going to turn all those people who have not picked any cards into monsters. Min-sik is about to be turned into a monster and he tells others to run away from him. Sung-woo is afraid because once they completely transform into a monster, they will not stand a chance against them. Sung-woo tells others that this is their only chance and they should attack them. Righty and his other minions rush at both of them before they can complete their transformation. Sung-woo is a bit hesitant, but he has no other choice. His minions start attacking them, but a skeleton soldier dies with a clumsy hit from a werewolf, and it proves that Sung-woo was right, and they need to die before they can fully transform into a monster. Finally, Sung-woo's minions manage to kill both of them, and Sung-woo receives 6,000 gold for killing them, and his level rises up to 8. Sung-woo is astonished because the werewolves they killed outside Hano's apartment were just 240 gold coins, and these werewolves, which were not even fully transformed, are worth 3,000 gold each. Sung-woo selects random stats cards as his level up award and his speed increases by 3. Hano is afraid because now they have to fight against powerful monsters like these werewolves. Sung-woo has a plan. Up until now, he has never tried to make a dead human into his minion because he thought others will have a bad impression of him, but now the situation has changed. Sung-woo successfully turns both werewolves into his minions. He thinks both of them are at least on par with vampires. Taesung is a bit worried because Sung-woo turned his dead friend into his minion. Sung-woo again asks him about the store and he tells Sung-woo that the store is in a used car complex. Taesung's group only used to steal gold from others, but the group occupying a used car complex is working directly under the vampires, and they kidnap humans for the vampires. When they arrive at the car complex, Sung-woo feels like something is wrong because this place is too quiet and there are no guards around. Taesung's vampire friend is also tagging along with them. They hear screams from close by. They start silently observing the situation. There is a bear monster and a vampire going toe-to-toe. Bear is punching the vampire like a training bag. Someone notices chains on the hands of the bear. It turns out that bear was a human, and he couldn't select a class because his hands were tied. And then he turned into a bear and killed the other vampires. The last vampire again attacked the bear with its fangs, and manages to injure it a little bit. At this point, both the vampire and the bear are at their limit. Both of them plunge at each other, but they get instantly wiped out by Sung-woo's werewolf minions. He receives 3,500 gold for killing the bear, and he turns him into his minion. Hano spots the same bus Kyung-soo, the spearman from school, was driving. Jisoo thinks they were kidnapped by these vampires. Taesung is about to tell them the store's location, but his friend Yoo-jin, which was previously turned into a vampire, has been possessed by real vampire boss. He is here to watch who has been killing his children. Vampire Lord gets to the point and tells Sung-woo that he is a mere insect. He then uses his ability to inflict a lesser curse on Sung-woo. Now Sung-woo needs holy magic to analyze and neutralize this curse. Vampire Lord starts spouting bullcrap, and Sung-woo kicks him with all of his force. There's a small red curse mark left on Sung-woo's hand, but it is not affecting Sung-woo for now. Hano is a priest, so maybe he can help Sung-woo with his curse. Hano tries to lift Sung-woo's curse, but his ability is too weak. Sung-woo has been marked by the Vampire Lord's exclusive skill, Trace of Blood, and his location will be exposed to the Vampire Lord after every 12 hours. Sung-woo's unique circumstances have triggered a special quest called No Country for Wicked Men. He has to eliminate the Vampire Lord, and he will receive 30,000 gold and a C-rank item ticket for completing this task. Vampire Lord will not stop scheming against Sung-woo until one of them dies. They move to the D-rank store, and it seems to be a bit different than the roulette machine they found in school. Sung-woo goes first, and he has one unlimited rank roulette ticket. It was the reward he received after he killed 100 orcs in the school, but he is saving that ticket for later. Sungwoo clicks on 10,000 gold option and 3 more options pop up. Sungwoo clicks on first place prize ball and he receives 5 balls. After using them, he receives a legendary rank Master Craftsman rank skill coupon. After using the coupon, he got an exclusive masterclass skill called Refuge in the Void. This skill costs 0 mana and it creates a space for his minions to rest and recover. He can summon his minions to his current place at any time. There is also a sub-skill called the Great Spirit. If Sungwoo summons multiple minions simultaneously, it will trigger the Curse of Death to spread in the area. Its range and effects will increase as his number of minions increases, and this skill has a cooldown of 1 hour. Hanho and Ji Soo-yoon are amazed by Sungwoo's luck. Sungwoo uses his skill to return his minions to the void. This skill is quite useful, and now he can move around without making others afraid of his minions. Hanho and Ji Soo-yoon are not as lucky as Sungwoo. Ji Soo-yoon got B rank survival package, and Hanho got a normal armor called Tough Bullhide Cuirass. Now we move to another